Welcome to Cardboard Content, where we aim to develop our skills and grow the competitive Commander community. Welcome back, guys. It's been a minute since I've seen all your beautiful faces. Welcome to the new studio. It's still in the works, but hopefully I'll get everything up and running, getting some stream gear coming in soon, so hopefully you'll get to see some live games and we can interact with everyone live. We've done it before, but not to this degree. Looking forward to jamming some games with you all. Thanks for everyone who came out to the tournament Grim Night. A few new friends and some old ones. Attendance was suboptimal, but we did have some overlapping events that kind of brought our numbers down, but we got to experience a lot of the new meta, which has shifted a great deal for better or worse. Without further ado, here is some cEDH gameplay for you all. Starting in the lower left hand corner, we have Lance on Kinnan with a starting hand of 5. Vincent on Sisay, starting hand of 6. Doug on Kenrith, starting hand of 7. And then we have Adrian on Magda with a starting hand of 5. Lance plays a City of Brass into an Elvish Mystic and then passes turn. Vincent plays Marsh Flats, fetches up a Savannah, and then casts Ignoble Hierarch. Passes turn to Doug. Doug plays Polluted Delta into an Underground Sea, and then passes turn to Adrian. On Adrian's turn, he plays Shinka, and then casts Dwarven Grunt. Passes turn to Lance. Lance plays Mana Confluence, then casts his commander Kinnan, and then passes turn to Vincent. On Vincent's turn, he plays Renin 6, activates Renin 6, and returns Marsh Flats. He plays and then passes turn to Doug. On Doug's turn, he plays a Gaia's Cradle, Lion's Eye Diamond, and then passes to Adrian. On Adrian's turn, Mycosynth Gardens, then plays his commander, Magda. Moves into combat and attacks Doug for 1, triggers Magda, and he makes 1 treasure. We go to Lance's third turn. He plays a Rejuvenating Spring. On his end step, Vincent cracks his Marsh Flats and gets a Underground Sea. On Vincent's turn, he activates Renin 6 again, bringing back the Marsh Flats, plays the Marsh Flats, and this time he gets a Tundra. Then casts an Orcish Bowmaster, targeting Magda. Then casts Agatha Soul Cauldron and passes turn to Doug. Doug draws and then immediately passes to Adrian. On Adrian's turn, he plays Mountain, then casts Spark Mage, then casts High Speed Hoverbike, passes turn to Lance. On Lance's turn, he plays Otawara for his land, then casts Fabricate. Doug responds by casting Dark Ritual, then casting Opposition Agent. Doug grabs Basalt Monolith from Lance's deck. Then on Vincent's turn, he activates Renin 6's minus ability and pings Elvish Mystic. Plays Flooded Strand for turn, then casts his commander Sisay. On Doug's turn, he draws a card and again passes straight after to Adrian. Adrian plays Buried Ruin, then casts his commander the second time, Magda. On Lance's turn, he draws a card and then attempts to pass the turn. Vincent activates Agatha Soul Cauldron on his end step and exiles Elvish Mystic, targeting Sisay with a 1/1 counter. We move on to Vincent's turn, activates Renin 6 again, targeting Magda. Adrian activates High Speed Hoverbike, tapping all his dwarves to net 3 treasures. Then Vincent casts Mockingbird, choosing Kennan, then passes turn to Doug. On Doug's turn, he plays Mana Confluence, and then passes turn to Adrian. Adrian plays Mishra's Workshop, activates Cruise High Speed Hoverbike with Dwarven Grunt, and then sends the High Speed Hoverbike to attack Renin 6. We move on to Lance's turn. Lance casts Glenalandra Archmage. On Lance's end step, Vincent activates Mockingbird Kinnan, fails to find, and then moves on to his turn. On his turn, he returns a land to his hand, then casts Mox Diamond, pitching the fetch land he just got back. Moves into combat and then attacks Adrian with Sisay. Then passes turn to Doug. Doug again immediately passes turn straight to Adrian. On Adrian's turn, he plays Karn, the Great Creator. Crews up High Speed Hoverbike with Dwarven Grunt, and attacks Ren in 6. Vincent responds. He activates his Mockingbird Kennan and reveals a Emil the Blessed. Ren in 6 goes to the graveyard, and Adrian passes turn to Lance. Lance passes turn to Vincent. On Vincent's turn, he goes into combat and sends a small army to Karn. Adrian responds to combat with a Pyroblast, targeting the Mockingbird Kinnan. Sisay gets blocked by Spark Mage, Pyroblast destroys Kinnan, and Emil does 4 damage to Karn, and then passes turn to Doug. On Doug's turn, he plays Scalding Tarn, cracks it for a tropical island, and then passes turn to Adrian. Adrian activates Karn's ability, targeting Doug's Lion's Eye Diamond. Then Adrian passes to Lance. Lance draws a card, and then moves into end step. Adrian targets Orcish Bowmaster with the Lightning Bolt. Vincent responds by casting Fierce Guardianship. Lance responds by sacrificing Glen Alondra. Then Vincent responds, activating Emil and blinking Orcish Bowmaster. Lance responds by casting Resculpt, targeting Emil the Blessed. Emil's ability resolves and blinks Orcish Bowmaster. On ETB, Vincent targets Glen Alondra. Lance passes turn to Vincent. Vincent attacks Adrian, and then Adrian blocks with Dwarven Grunt. Then Vincent casts Rhystic Study. Doug responds with a Vampiric Tutor, and then Vincent passes turn to Doug. On Doug's turn, he casts Thassa's Oracle, triggering Rhystic Study, holds priority, and casts Tainted Pact, triggering Rhystic Study again. Vincent draws, and then responds with an Offer You Can't Refuse, targeting Tainted Pact. Tainted Pact gets countered. Doug looks at the top 2 cards of his deck, puts 1 to the bottom and leaves 1 at top, then passes turn to Adrian. On Adrian's turn, he plays Holdout Settlement and then passes turn to Lance. Lance draws a card and then passes turn to Vincent. On Vincent's turn, he plays Scalding Tarn. Vincent moves into combat and attacks Doug with Sisay, and then passes turn to Doug. On Doug's turn, he casts his Rhystic Study, triggers Vincent's Rhystic Study, and Vincent draws, and then Rhystic Study resolves, and Doug passes turn to Adrian. On Adrian's turn, he casts Clock of Omens, triggering both Rhystics. They both draw. Then he casts Goblin Welder, triggering both Rhystics again. Doug draw. Vincent's Orcish Bowmaster triggers, and he pings Karn. Adrian activates Karn and targets one of Doug's treasures. We move on to Lance's turn. He draws a card and immediately passes his turn to Vincent. We immediately go back to Vincent's turn, and he casts Dranith Magistrate, triggering Doug's Rhystic Study. He draws a card, triggers Orcish Bowmaster, and then Vincent targets Goblin Welder. Vincent attacks with the Exalted 4/4 Elemental, which is now a 5/5 at Karn. Doug responds to damage with Abrupt Decay, targeting Agatha's Soul Cauldron, which triggers Vincent's Rhystic Study. He draws. The 5/5 Elemental takes out Karn, and then Vincent passes to Doug. On Doug's turn, he casts Survival of the Fittest, triggers Rhystic Study. Vincent draws, then pitches Displacer Kitten for a Worn Soul Trader, then passes turn to Adrian. Then Adrian immediately passes to Lance. Lance plays Polluted Delta, then passes his turn to Vincent. Vincent plays Tropical Island, moves into combat and attacks Doug with a 4/4 Orc Army and a 4/4 Elemental. Doug responds by pitching Birds of Paradise to Survival of the Fittest to grab a Orcish Bowmaster, which he casts, triggers Vincent's Rhystic Study. He draws. Doug's Orcish Bowmaster targets Vincent's Orcish Bowmaster, and then blocks the Orc Army with his 1/1 Orc Army, and then takes 4 damage from the Elemental. On Doug's turn, he plays Worn Soul Trader, triggers Rhystic Study. Vincent draws, then casts Force of Vigor, pitching a Delighted Halfling and targeting Rhystic Study and Survival of the Fittest, paying for Doug's Rhystic Study. Doug sacrifices Thassa's Oracle for 1 treasure, then plays Chatterfang, triggers Vincent's Rhystic Study. Doug gets a ping and targets Dranith Magistrate. Lance responds with a hard cast Mindbreak Trap, triggering Rhystic Study, then Doug's Orcish Bowmaster, which pings Dranith Magistrate again, and then Doug casts Swan Song, targeting Mindbreak Trap, which triggers Rhystic Study again. Vincent declines the draw. Doug sacrifices the Orc Army to create a treasure, which triggers Chatterfang. Doug establishes a life-dependent loop by using Worn Soul Trader's ability by paying 1 life, sacrificing a creature, for a treasure, which triggers Chatterfang again to create another 1/1 squirrel that Doug can sacrifice that again to make another treasure. He activates this loop enough to net 5 treasures. Then Doug casts Gilded Drake, triggers Ristic Study. Doug pays, and then targets Kenrith Magistrate. Then Doug activates Warren Soul Trader again, netting enough mana to cast his commander Kenrith, and then activates Kenrith's third ability to gain 5 life. Doug loses 3 life to activate and net 2 life in total. Doug repeats this process, gains a lot of life, then a lot of treasures, and then activates Kenrith's 4th ability to deck everyone out, or all creatures haste, and attack everyone with a massive army. Good job, Doug. Congrats to you, Doug, for pulling it off there at the end. It was a grind fest, especially with your opposition agent slowing everything down there. Endgame summation. Everyone played fairly well, but first thing, Adrian, your hover bike had flash. I would use that to your advantage. It has the mechanic, of course, of crewing to let your dwarfs tap and crew it, but it has a bigger body and you can use it as a sacrificial lamb since you don't want to have your dwarves die, but they're not gonna see it if they attack you with that 1/1 Bowmaster maybe, and then you could flash it into play, tap something down on their turn, and then block with your 2/2 bike. Also, you had a missed opportunity of attacking with your hover bike since it does have flying. The Renin 6 could have been attacked, knocking that planeswalker down a few notches. Vincent did definitely get advantage with that Renin 6. Doug, in this point, you could have chose anything to advance your board state, but you chose to get a combo piece that doesn't benefit your deck. I know it slows down Lance's Kinnan, but ideally you want to advance your board state and not just stop him from doing his thing. Also, at this point, Doug, I think you could have won the game right here. You tapped 2 of your land, which one of them was a Gaia's Cradle, tapped for 2, and you had 1 green floating. The 1 green could have paid for Vincent's Ristic Study. The Ristic Study he did draw from got him that offer you can't refuse, which did stop you there. If you weren't going to use the mana, I would have suggested for you to pay for his Ristic Study. Pay for your taxes, not all the time, but when you have extra mana and you're not going to use it, might as well. But congratulations overall, Doug. You got a few new cards there in your Kenrith pile that I haven't personally got to play with, and I'm definitely gonna add it to my new list. Speaking of list, we have all lists linked down below. Also down below is our other social medias. While you're down there, you can check out our host of the event, Dark Side Games. Please consider joining us on Patreon to support the channel and get access to the uncut games. I'll post the entire streamed event there also, but to get access to that, you have to support the channel through Patreon, like these lucky guys. They're back at it again, folks. The tier 2 content consumers: Big Yoda at 9, Aaron at 7, Marcus at 7, Dylan at 6, Troy at 6, and Rodrigo at 3. No slouches here because we have our tier 3 cardboard cutouts. Wong at a whole year of support, Matt at 11 times, Albert at 10, Joyner at 6, and the new kid on the block, Gwendolyn. Please consider supporting the channel at patreon.com/cardboardcontent. See you guys next time for more content.